What's going on, guys? What you're going to see today is another Krieg build, or maybe the first Krieg build, depending on which one of the Krieg builds you've seen of mine first. This one here is going to be a Love Thumper melee build with Krieg that's going to emphasize maximum damage as possible through melee without using Silence the Voices. It's also going to emphasize keeping you in your Buzz Axe rampage as long as physically possible, while dealing as much bang for your buck in it as possible. This build here is particularly probably my favorite build. It's the most fun build for me. You can deal especially when you slag enemies, you could pretty much one or two shot, maybe three, depending on how tough the enemy is. You could pretty much under 3 shot pretty much any single non-raid boss out there with this build, if you're doing it right. The key with this build too is you have to, looking at it quickly, you have to balance extreme aggression with patience. But if you can master that, when to attack when the enemy is weak, and not overextending your bounds, like going too far up into a stronghold push, you can decimate everything and everyone. You could pretty much walk through a room without being struck once when obliterating everything, especially comparing it with Bloodsplosion, as you'll see. The key with being aggressive is wait till your Buzz Axe rampage meter's back, so it's charged up. You can throw Stormfront grenades to increase your Bloodlust stacks, but what I like to do is throwing slag grenades. And what happens with it is throwing the slag grenade slags the enemies, especially with the O negatives. They also regenerate some health back to you, but they slag the enemies. Activate your Buzz Axe rampage skill, go in there, and you can decimate the entire room before it knows what hit them. It's such a fun build to work with. I'll break down the points into it quickly. It's going to be in Bloodlust and Mania, as you might expect. Blood Twitch is what I spec'd into. It's a kill skill. Killing an enemy increases your weapon swap speed. You don't really need this skill per se, but you'll probably need it more than you would blood-filled guns. The reason being is you're going to be focusing on melee and staying in your Buzz Axe rampage as long as possible, so you're not going to be swapping weapons much. You can use the ruby or something to slag or something to regenerate, like an assault rifle kitten. But again, outside of swap speed, which would be speeding up, you don't really need this. But you almost certainly wouldn't need blood-filled guns, so I spec'd into that one instead. Taste of Blood's the next one. During your Buzz Axe rampage, all damage you suffer is reduced, which is nice. Damage reduction is increased for each stack of Bloodlust. Again, nice. Bloodbath, another kill skill. Killing an enemy with a grenade or an explosion increases weapon damage. The key to this, though, isn't necessarily that, because as much as you will be throwing grenades in this build, you don't necessarily need the weapon damage. The key is because an enemy killed this way has a greater chance of dropping grenade ammo, so spec a point or two into that, especially if you're going to be throwing a lot of grenades like I do. Getting any grenade ammo back helps. You can also mix match your points as well. You can throw some points out of, say, fuel, or you could take it out of blood trance or boiling blood instead and throw into this if you choose, but you don't need to. Buzz Axe Bombardier I spec'd into because I'll get into it quickly. In the other build, I spec'd into Strip the Fletch, which increases explosive damage. You could also use explosive grenades. Buzz Axe Bombardier is nice, so I chose it for the extra damage for explosions paired with Strip the Flesh, but I'll talk about that in a minute. Fuel the Blood is basically it's a kill skill. Killing an enemy with melee increases grenade damage. Since you're going to be using both grenades and melee, that's a perfect skill for this build. Blood Trance is duration of your Buzz Axe rampage is increased for each stack of Bloodlust. You add an extra 0.25 seconds added to each stack. So you could stay in it a long time if you spec high in this and you emphasize getting your stacks up. Boiling Blood increases the time before Bloodlust starts to decay. That's nice too. And Bloodsplosion. There's a lot of controversy with this one already. Some people think it's overpowered. Some people like it the way it is. Some people think it's cheap. Some people don't. I personally like it the way it is. And I like the fact that well, I can chain explosions with it. Some think it's cheap. I don't care. I personally enjoy the hell out of Bloodsplosion, especially when you kill 1 or 2 dudes after you line them up. You can empty out a room on Bloodsplosion alone, and no amount of people complaining that it's cheap will tell me that it's not fun. I still get a huge smile when a room lights up. So it's a huge skill for me, and I'm going to use it for as long as I can. Hopefully it doesn't get nerfed. Going into the Mania tree, since you're going to be focusing on melee, obviously you're going to want melee damage increase with Empty the Rage. So you're going to want that. Feed to Meat increases shield charge relay and maximum health. Again, 2 for 1 skill price there. Very nice. You're going to want Fuel the Rage as well, which taking damage increases your Buzz Axe Rampage at recharges it at a faster rate. It also gives you a health damage bonus, which is nice. So you're going to want that. There's a key skill to have. Now, if you wanted to use, because I'm using the Love Thumper, I didn't feel I needed to throw an extra 5 points and embrace the pain for the increased shield charge relay again. You don't really need it. So if you were going to use the Hide of Terror instead of the Love Thumper, you could have put 5 points of that. But I felt the big difference between the Love Thumper and the Hide of Terror wasn't enough of a difference that I'd waste 5 skill points in, so I chose to stay out of this. But again, like I was talking to, Strip the Flesh increases explosive elemental damage if you spec into it 5 points for an extra 15. It increases your Fight for Your Life bonus as well, which is why I also put a point into Light Diffuse. Some people think Light Diffuse is underpowered, me also being one of them, because any non-run-of-the-mill bandit usually doesn't explode quickly with this. Maybe it's a bit underpowered, but I still feel it's fun, so I put that in for the build. If you personally don't like it, feel free to throw that point somewhere else. I personally do like it, though. Strip the Flesh can also be used for Buzz Axe Bombardier and explosive grenades, so that's why I like having that in there. Salt the Wound basically says that taking damage from an enemy while your shield is down increases a stack of Salt the Wound, which increases melee and shotgun damage. If you're going to use the Love Thumper, your shield will be down the entire time. Feel free, absolutely add this skill. The next one is Silence the Voices, which basically, as everybody already knows, the controversy behind this one. It increases your melee damage. I believe it's all the way up to a potential 250 with a 12% chance of attacking yourself. Now, I've tried multiple builds with this. I've even included this build where I took Strip the Flesh points out and threw them in to Silence the Voices, but it wasn't worth it. One round, I'd pretty much empty out the entire area without even breaking a sweat. The next round, I wouldn't even leave the first area without bashing myself in the face 3 times in a row. So I don't like random number generators in this particular fact, so I stayed away from this skill. And obviously, you're going to want Release the Beast. When your health is below 33%, you activate it, you instantly recharge back to full. It gives you an increase of 100% melee damage, a 50% damage reduction, and every single time you kill a dude, it restores your health back to full. Absolutely nothing wrong with this skill. Now, going to the gameplay quickly here before it starts to expire. As you've probably already seen by watching it, as long as you keep everything slagged with the O negatives, having the Splat and Blood Explosion takes care of everything else, which is beautiful. I love Blood Explosion. The key to this build, like I was kind of talking about earlier, is to balance aggression versus patience. Make sure that if you're about to enter a room coming up, make sure you throw in grenades. Especially if they're slag grenades, make sure you throw slag grenades. Slag the area. Ideally, you get some health regeneration from the O negatives if you choose to use those. And, well, go nuts. This isn't a real rocket science build. Choose your moments, go in, and use melee to pretty much obliterate everything. Feel free to let me know what you think about it. Try it out for yourself. Let me know if you have tried it out, if you have feedback for it. Let me know if you've changed any skill points with it. Yeah, that's it. See you later.